Malo la malia ho eiki pe malo lelei ai tonga katoa pe. A warm greetings to all our audience that are listening to us at this time. Welcome to our parenting during COVID-19. And here in the space, I have Maria Davis with us. And I will just, Maria, a very warm welcome for you and thank you for allowing us to be with you in the space to share your skills and your insight and knowledge into how to do parenting during COVID-19. But prior to that, Maria, I would like to give you this opportunity to please introduce yourself to our audience this evening.
Thank you, Saane. Thank you for the warm welcome. But first of all, before I introduce myself, firstly, I would like to thank you, Saane, for this great opportunity to have a talanoa with you tonight. And also would like to thank the funders for funding this great initiative. Yeah. So my name is Maria David, and I'm Samoan, part Tokelauan. I came to New Zealand at the age of 12 and a half. And then I was educated here in Wellington. And after that, you know, life goes on. Then I got married with children, 4 children in Wellington. And then we came to Auckland and had 2 children. So altogether 6 children. And now I've got 12 grandchildren. Yeah, so I have a passion in counselling because I really would love to help people in their need and also try and make a difference for the community and people that require the counselling services or someone to talk to.
Yes.
Yeah, so been here in Auckland for about 39 years now, and it's a real privilege to be here, Saane, to share our talks and our stories within this program. Whawhitai lava and Malo lelei.
Talofa lava, Maria, and thank you for that. And yes, an acknowledgement like what you said, and a thank you to Foundation North for funding this program and enabling us to access into these resources. But Maria, could you please share with us your story? Hearing that you were migrated here when you were 12 years of age. So the parenting that you have experienced, your transitioning from the parenting that you had in Samoa and even here to New Zealand, and the impact on that, on the way you parent your own children, and now you have grandkids. I'll appreciate to hear your story, Maria.
Thank you, Saane. Like I said, I came to New Zealand when I was 12. Prior to that, growing up when I was a child, I had witnessed child abuse and a lot of discomfort and very heartfelt love for the children from what I saw. And so that really had an impact on me, and I thought to myself, I will never treat my children like that. I will ensure that my children are happy and that they are loved and nurtured and well looked after. Because what I saw was, I don't even want to explain, and I'm sure a lot of us Pacific people have witnessed that kind of violence and the abuse that our children had in the islands. So when I came to New Zealand, you know, I went to school, educated, but when I had my children, the first one, you know, my boys, I really treated them with love, and, you know, I really wanted to be close to them. And when I used to get angry, I would discipline them in words. I was brought up in the islands by my grandparents, and they're whaiwhekau or whaiwheau, yeah. And I've never really been hit, harsh. The only thing that my grandfather used to do was just had my hand up and just smack like that with the other hand. And then he would discipline me by telling me off and talk to me what I did wrong and how I should learn from that. You know, that's the kind of discipline that I've had. And also growing up in Samoa was really loving, and the only form of discipline was telling me off using the words and not using anything to hit me like we've seen. I can only remember my grandfather sitting me down and telling me off like that, and my grandmother would do the same. I was very lucky. I was one of those very lucky children that growing up not being smacked or disciplined like that. In fact, I was disciplined, like I mentioned before, by using words, harsh words, not swearing or anything like that, but really make sure, I think my grandfather made sure that I get it, you know, and that I will learn from that. And I really appreciate that sort of discipline. The only hidings I used to have, unfortunately, was from school days when I was at school, in intermediate and primary school. When I came late to school, or I would not bring a knife on a Friday when we was a working bee on a Friday. My uncle wouldn't let me have a machete, and I would get a hiding for that. And yes, we laugh about it when we share it with our friends, but that wasn't very nice. I don't think that was way of disciplining the children. And besides, I really disagree now that I'm older and I've got children of the way the Pacific Island people or teachers, you know, they've got no right to hit other people's children. And I've never forgotten that. So when I had family and I've had children, like I said, I would never hit them. My husband, in the other way, would smack their bottom, smack their legs with the hand, you know, but just to discipline them and tell them to ensure that they actually understand why they got smacked or something wrong, or they said something, and that's our form of disciplinary. You know, say spare the rod and spoil the child. I hear a lot in our community or our Samoan culture. The meaning of that, they didn't use the rod on me, so it means that they spoiled me by not being hit or using the rod, in other words. It didn't really refer to me as I was being disciplined by a sasa or being hit using rods, that didn't, or belts. And, you know, I turned out to be okay. I wasn't naughty. Didn't feel like I was too spoiled. And when I had children, I didn't believe in smacking them, but I disciplined in using words, just like my grandfather and my grandmother did to me. So in New Zealand, there's a law not to smack the children, and we need to abide with that because this is New Zealand, not the Pacific Islands. And I believe that is really good parenting. I totally agree with that law. And we're not in the islands, we've got to obey the rules that the New Zealand put out for, you know, the betterment for our children and the community.
Yes.
So the difference in cultural approaches is having a detrimental effect on Pacific children. This is because it confuses them as to the correct way or the correct method to bringing up the children.
Yes.
You know.
Yes, and I remember, Maria, I had an interview with Dr. Siale Foliaki, and he certainly agrees with you. He does not agree in hitting the children. And he said to me, because hitting the kids will ruin your relationship with the children. And he talks about the toughness of the parenting that he grew up with because of the expectations upon them. But now when he looks at his children, and also the research says that happy children do well at school. Happy children do well in life in general. So, and he talks about happy children, that if the parents, especially the mother,
Yeah.
are not happy or not well, it will have a impact on the children. So listening to you, Maria, and how you parent your children, I'm wondering now, how do you see your children parenting their children?
That's really interesting, because, you know, I often have conversations with my children, and I've been watching them, how they parent their children, my grandchildren. So, for example, one daughter, they're staying with me at the moment with their 3 children. I laugh when she disciplines them, and I thought, oh wow, you know, this is really awesome. I've never seen them, my daughter and her husband, smack the children. They would discipline them by the words. And okay, go to the room, you stay there for 5 minutes or so, and that's it. I've never seen them smack, and to me, I'm very proud of them. Yeah. I had a conversation with my daughter, and I said, how do you feel about smacking the children? Why don't you smack them to discipline them? And she said, well, you and Dad never brought up in a way that you would, you know, smack us, and we turn out to be okay. And I don't believe, she said she doesn't believe in smacking the kids either. And I'm so proud, you know, brings a tear to my eye, because that's exactly how I felt when I saw these children in Samoa being abused. It was really hard discipline, physical abuse. And so, and I'm really, really glad and very proud that we've been role models for our children in bringing up their children. Yeah.
Parenting, Maria, it's in my view, it's never an easy way, or it's not an easy thing to do. It's always very challenging. Raising your children, and you've got 6 kids, they're now grown up and have their own children. But parenting is always challenging with their different behavior and their personalities. But now it's COVID-19, with all the restrictions that we are facing. It's good now that here in Auckland that kids, my primary school kids, take turns in going to school. They've got a few days on and a few days off. But what would you say from a personal point of view, and from a professional point of view as well? What would you say, what would be your advice for the parents that are parenting their children during this pandemic?
I think, you know, because it's very challenging these times, with the lockdown and everything, and you find house full of children, a lot of noise, a lot of headache. You really need to be a parent. It's a skill. You need to be patient. You need to be not get angry, and you have to have those skills and spending some time with your children, so that think beforehand about some sort of activity that you will sit down and play and do things with your children, because it's not only good for them, it helps with their self-development, also good for their education, keep the mind going, and you know, you're not, even though the house is a mess, you should try not to bother, or don't even worry about that. The most important thing is spend that quality time with your children. There's so many activities, you know. You could be sitting down reading books, do some writing, or draw pictures, go out and do some gardening with them. Quality time is you having a kōrero, or having a conversation, or sharing stories with your children. I could make a list of activities to help out the parents. I remember when I was young, my grandmother used to love her gardening. And I remember I used to go and help her with her gardening. And that's when we had our quality time. Those sort of times I will never forget. And so she was talking to me with about life, you know, in general, how to grow up, look after myself as a young lady, help talk to me about my mum, talk to me about my dad, and, you know, just telling me stories about the her parents and the ancestors, and because she's the Tokelauan one coming to Samoa. You know, the quality times that you have with your grandparents are really, really mind-blowing. So I've never, those times are so treasured to me, those kind of conversation. So that's a quality time. I'm thinking of the parents or the mum spending time with her children. Yeah, go out in the garden and talk like stories like that, or how you should behave to your parents, you know, and talk about, share about the culture, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. About if you walk in front of people, for example, you know, say too low, little things like that. But that is learning for the children as well. Yeah, and talk about anything and anything. Whatever interests the children as well, they can ask and then you can answer. Those are beautiful moments I think the parents should treasure and spend top quality time with their children.
Yes, because one thing that I hear in what you're saying, Maria, you talked about playfulness. And playfulness is actually a concept that is used in therapy. And it's interesting that it's actually a concept that now we go to university to study that concept. But growing up in Tonga, I remember me and my grandfather, because my mom was actually working. So me and my grandfather, we would be doing the cooking, but the cooking was in the fireplace. So you can't go too far because it's not a stove to continue, the flame continue to go. You have to stay close to bring the firewood into the fireplace. So what I did was having a long stick on my hand, and my grandfather would have been telling me words like school, you know, and I will actually write it on the ground. And I was spelling it on the ground, and he said, no, you got that wrong. You're missing out a C. There's supposed to be a C between the S and the H. And it's interesting because the whole concept of playfulness brings me and my grandfather close. So, and you are suggesting the same thing for the parents that are now at lockdown at home with the restrictions with the children. Go down to the garden, you know, weeding the garden, because when you have a nice garden at home, it helps the soul, beauty, it helps the therapy, brings therapy to your soul to see that, but also to build that relationship. But my thinking at the time about the situation, Maria, some parents are probably stressing out. Some parents are probably stressing out because they probably have lost the income, and they're probably worrying about losing their house, or you know, it's probably, I wonder whether, and in that, because they're so stressful about that situation, then they're not available emotionally for the playfulness and the quality time that we are suggesting into the space. What would you say to those parents?
Well, you know, there's a lot of help here in New Zealand.
Yes.
Because of lockdown, you know, we're allowed to actually visit the second bubble, or it could be your grandmother or sister or brother. There's a lot of people around your family, because you don't want to be in their environment too long, because that's when you get angry and, you know, no patience and you're hitting the children. So I would suggest that they go and ask for help, ask the sister, or say, oh, I'm having problems with my child. Could you please help me by taking him away or her away?
Ask for help.
Yes, ask for help. It's just really important. And, you know, there's a lot of families or friends. If you've got no families, I'm sure you've got friends to be able to help you. And if you ask for help, who wouldn't want to help? You know,
Exactly.
this day in this environment, we all want to help each other because we understand about the lockdown and that, you know, people are stressed and people, they find it challenging, the environment that we're in.
Yes.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. And there's also numbers that can ring and they will help to suggest ideas or what to do in that kind of environment.
Thank you, Maria. But also I'm thinking, because there are different social services that provide different help during this time, like the Health Star Pacific, Langima'a Oceania. So there are different services that are providing assistance around those areas. Even MSD, they do provide assistance at WINS. One of the things that I'm thinking of, Maria, you know, what would be your advice for the parents if they see their children are having low mood? Like sometimes kids just, because of the lockdown and, you know, the whole talk at the moment, it's a lot of fear in the environment. It's a lot of fear of death with this COVID-19 or Delta variant. There's fear that if you get sick, you're going to be isolated. So there's a lot of fear in the decision making. And sometimes with children, they just burst into tears and cry without any reason. Some children probably lock themselves in the room and don't want to come out, like with low mood, or some children with having like disrespectful behaviors. What would you say to the parents whom that they're experiencing such behavior from their children?
Yeah, like, you know, it creates a lot of anxiety within the parents and children, this environment and nowadays with the lockdown and that. The parents need to be, you know, be patient and play activity, like I mentioned before. It's a real good, it's a must, because not only that will keep the child busy and in an environment where he's learning at the same time. Sand play is one of the things that my grandchildren really enjoy. Stick their fingers, their hands inside the sand and play with toys, and you could tell stories about that. You could create stories and ask them, what do you think about this and that, you know, and let them tell you the story. So play is very important. Sand play is one of the things I would suggest. If you try and make the child happy, that child will grow up into a happy person and enjoy life, you know, and helps with the self-development as well.
Yes.
A lot of things. You could refer, if you really must and you can't cope, ring the doctor and refer. The doctor could support you by referring your child to a specialist if you're unable to cope or have problems. Like I said before, get help from families and friends.
Yes.
But specialists and people who are professional. And also don't forget that we have, like Langima'a, we've got services, counseling services that can help adults and children. You know, we could do it on Zoom, on the radio, I mean on the like this, and if you're unable to be together. So and you must listen to your child. Sometimes they get frustrated if the parents just brush them off and not listen to them, because by listening, you know, then you get to see or hear what is it they really want, what's the problem, what's the issue. But of course there's a lot of providers like Langima'a out there in the community that you can tap on just to ask for help, and they can refer you. If they're unable to help you, they will refer you to other providers and other organizations.
Yes. Which is good. So because it enables the parents to realize that they can't do everything.
That's right.
You know, we are in a crisis. and we all need help, and it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely.
Because we don't need perfect parents. What our children need is a good enough parents that can know their limit and know when to ask for help. So thank you about that, Maria. I think we come down into the last question, Maria. I'm just thinking, what would you say for us? How can we as a community support and nurture one another in our parenting journey? Because parenting is a journey. Like the way you parent the 0 to 5 would probably be slightly different when they reach from 6 to 11. And it will change again from 12 onwards to young adults. So different stages have different parenting style, and it's a journey. But what is your suggestion or your advice for us in our parenting journey? How can we do that as a community?
Thank you for that. Yeah, as a community, it's really important that at times like these, that we look out for each other.
Yes.
That we look, you know, go and you observe your next door neighbors and see if they're okay.
Yes.
Knock on the door and be friendly. And if you haven't spoken to them, you know, ever, then this is a time and opportunity to say hello.
Yeah.
Of course, go with your mask and have your distance.
Non-contact.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Socially connected, physically distant.
Yes, do all that. And, you know, if you hear the child constantly crying, that there must be something that's happening, whether the child's not well or hungry or whatever, then that's the time for you to go and check out. I think take that as a responsibility for yourself to go and find out what is happening next door.
Yeah.
Have a conversation or talanoa with the owner, with the mother. Is everything all right? You know, that's when she's able to tell you her issues, her problem. Oh, you know, we're finding it difficult to meet, you know, pay bills, or don't have enough food for the kids, and whatever issues you may have. And that's a really good thing for you to do. So then you can refer or get help for this lady. There's a lot of food, you know, places, and they're giving out food banks left, right, and centre these days.
Yes.
So, and then you determine by looking in the house whether they're in poverty or, you know, anything like that. You can refer them to food banks and other organisations, make sure that they deliver food for this family.
Yes.
Refer them to services like, you know, WINS or Langima'a Counseling.
Yes.
And, you know, it takes a village to bring up a child.
Yeah.
I really do believe in that. As a community, we are the village, you know, and don't just sit there and not wanting to go and say hello if you hear a child, or even a lady might have been abused by the husband who's very abusive. You know, go there and see if she's okay when the husband goes to work during the day. Offer to, you know, to take the child if the mother's very stressed and can't cope with the children. Offer to take them away for an hour or take them to the park. You know, you can do little things like that.
Little things, yes.
Yeah. See if the children are sick or they're healthy. Are they safe in their environment? How's their emotional well-being? You know, the mother as well as children. And you're not going to find out any of that if you don't go knock on the door and say hi.
Yes.
But yeah, and we must, I think, we must as a community be responsible and help one another, especially with times like these, because everyone's so isolated in their own bubble, you know, and you're afraid to go and we might get COVID from them. But, you know, you're actually helping someone that really might need your help. Or, you know, have a listening ear. If it's a teenager, coming back, if it's a teenager that mum's having problems with, offer to have a talk to the teenager. He can come over for about an hour.
Yes.
You know, I had friends that I've never forgotten that he committed suicide. A friend, son of friends, and after talking to friends, that really made me want to talk to my children every now and again.
Yeah.
I would never leave them alone for a long period of time. It's a lesson learned for me and my husband. They just found the body and he hung himself in the garage. Ooh. Unfortunately, the parents said that they were devastated, but they said that child doesn't really talk to them much. But I'm thinking to the parents, have you gone and talked to him, knock on the door and, you know, spent some time with your son? So that sort of thing, that you never know any of those issues that next door neighbor will have unless you go and knock on the door and talk to them. Yeah, of course the little children are easy, because if that was me, I could just take them for a walk, shout them ice blocks, just to make them happy for a little while. Yeah. But you need to have a listening ear to the teenagers and the older our whānau, because they're like in that transition from being a youth to adults, and sometimes they have mixed feelings and wanting to talk to someone. So yeah, those are some of my ideas to the parents.
Thank you, Maria, because you're talking about something that is actually achievable. Don't have to have so much money to help. Even like what you said, even your knowledge of how to connect that family or that whānau with services that are available, that how to knowledge, it's probably doesn't cost you any money or anything, but it helps a lot to that family. Yeah. You know, like even like just giving them some ice blocks or you know, small things like that that is affordable, and yet it helps the family. And the how-to knowledge are rather very important in that space. That's right. And also, I like the fact that you talked about go out of your comfort zone. Instead of just thinking, focusing within, consider like building a space that is connect, a bar that is connect with your neighbors. And it's not just your neighbors, also with your relatives that you mentioned before, connecting to them over the phone or the Zoom, and just see how they are, because sometimes that they are lonely. They just wanted to talk to someone, you know, and just having some time to have a conversation just makes them feel good for the day. I hear the saying, a small act of kindness goes a long way. Right. And that still stands for this day. So, Maria, was there anything else that would you like to say to our audience this evening as we bring our program into a conclusion?
Thank you. I forgot to mention your quality time with your children. To me, as my children grew up, it was really important that I spent that time with them. Yes. My eldest son, I used to take them to preschool when they were babies until 2. And then on my way to work, I felt as though I neglected them. And I was really crying. As soon as I got to work, I would ring them and say, the school, how are they? And they said, Mrs. David, they're fine the minute you left. But when I had my first daughter, my eldest daughter, my third child, I've actually made a decision to leave my work and stay home with my baby. So I've stayed home until I've had my last child. And, you know, that quality time that I've had with them is so special. I will never take that away, you know, from them. Until when the kids were a little bit older, I had to work to pay for the mortgage, to help my husband pay for the mortgage. And so I had a job from the afternoon 3 to 11. That's the time I really missed with them, because, you know, I'm not putting them to sleep. I'm not having dinner with them. I'm not being with them. And, but, you know, it's so difficult, us as parents here in this country, because you've got to work, pay for a roof over your family's heads. And, so what do you do? Oh, so I was able to change my job for daytime into nighttime. And when I come home, they're asleep. So that was all right. But what I'm saying to the parents is, if you can, try and stay home. Money's not that important. You somehow manage. And that quality time with your children is really, really crucial. So, in fact, I'm really glad that, a lot of people was asking, how come you had 6 children and you've got a house? Because of the hard work, and I had to change and work full-time at night. And, but I missed that quality time in the afternoon, when having dinner with my family, having showers, put them to bed. But if it's anything, if you ask me, what can I change? That's exactly what I'm going to change. Make sure that I don't go to work. The money that your husband brings in is enough. You can budget on that. But spending that quality time with your children. In fact, I've shared that with my daughter. And when she had her first child, for a 1-year maternity leave, she was going to go back to work. And I shared that with her about, I stayed home with them when they were young. And then she extended that time. She stayed home with the first one, and the second one came. She stayed home, and now she's got 3 children, and she's still at home. And I said, so how do you feel having that quality time with your children? And she thanked me. She said, thank you so much, Mum, for sharing that with me. Because now I love every moment of it with my children. I'm here in the morning and night, and just the husband. So, it's just learning, but people are different with their circumstances. But that's my sharing with the with you, community. Thank you.
Beautiful story, Maria, because I've heard people that are now doctors these days, but when their children were young, they didn't have time for them when they were young. But now they've achieved their career, high career, but they're playing catch up because the children are suffering the consequences because of what they missed out. So what an insight, and what a great advice. And I just want to say thank you. And at this time, we want to say thank you to everyone who is listening to us right now, and those that will listen to us later. Thank you to Foundation North for funding this program. And also, thank you again, Maria, and Malo Albito.
Thank you, Saane, for this great opportunity. And Malo Albito to all our listeners. Thank you.